Hello friends, welcome back to my channel Mukesh English. In this video, we are going to have the discussion of the 2 marks questions from the lesson The Sporting Spirit. It's an essay by George Orwell. This lesson is in the syllabus of first semester BBBHM General English, Bangalore University, SEP syllabus. So let's begin the discussion of the 2 marks questions from the essay The Sporting Spirit, written by George Orwell. The very first question, what event is George Orwell referring to at the beginning of the essay? He refers to the visit of the Dynamo football team to Britain. What is George Orwell's central argument about sports? He argues that sports foster ill will and animosity rather than goodwill between nations. How did the Arsenal match illustrate George Orwell's point? A British and Russian player came to blows and the crowd booed the referee. What controversy arose about the Arsenal team? There was a debate over whether it was an all England team or just a league team. So there was a controversy about the Arsenal team. Then what effect does Orwell believe the Dynamo tour had on Anglo-Soviet relations? He believes it created fresh animosity or enmity between the two nations. What does Orwell think of the claim that sports promote international goodwill? He dismisses, George Orwell dismisses this claim, saying that international sports often lead to the hatred and conflict. What example does Orwell give to show that sports can lead to hostility? He cites the 1936 Olympic Games, which were marked by nationalist tensions. What happens to people's instincts during competitive sports, according to George Orwell? Savage and combative instincts are aroused as people strive to win, especially in such kind of competitive sports. How does George Orwell describe sports at the international level? He calls it as a mimic warfare. He calls the sports at the I'm sorry, at the international level a mimic warfare. What role do spectators play in fostering ill will in sports? Spectators work themselves into furies, cheering their side and insulting opponents. Why does Orwell criticize cricket? Because he notes the past controversies like bodyline bowling and rough tactics by the Australian team, so he criticizes cricket. Which sport does Orwell find most violent and disturbing? Boxing, particularly matches between white and the colored boxers before a mixed audience. What does Orwell say about the behavior of boxing audiences? He describes the boxing audiences as disgusting, particularly criticizing the behavior of women spectators. Oh my God. Then, how does Orwell describe football in countries like India and Burma? Matches often require police cordons, and violent accidents such as disabling the goalkeepers occur during the matches in football matches in India and Burma. What happened at Spain's first big football match? It led to an uncontrollable riot. What is Orwell's view on spectators influencing the game? He condemns them for booing, cheering, and trying to rattle opposing players. What does Orwell say about the origins of modern sports? He attributes the modern sports to the rise of nationalism and urbanization in the 19th century. Next question. How does George Orwell contrast modern sports with medieval games? Medieval games are brutal, but they are not connected to the politics or group hatred. This is the contrast between the modern sports and the medieval games. What is George Orwell's opinion of organized games in urban communities? George Orwell observes such games as the outlets for the physical energy and the sadistic impulses in the confined lives. What does George Orwell suggest about sports and nationalism? He believes sports are deeply intertwined with the competitive prestige and nationalism. What hypothetical matches does Orwell mention to illustrate this point? He mentions the matches like Jews versus Arabs, Germans versus Jash, and Indians versus British will always bring out the ill will. Then, does Orwell see sports as a primary cause of international rivalry or rivalry? No, he observes sports as an effect of the same causes that produce the nationalism. What does Orwell suggest about sending British teams abroad? He advises sending second rate teams. He says that please send the second rate teams to avoid intensifying international tensions. What is Orwell's views on the role of politics in sports? He criticizes the mixing of sports with politics because it leads to unnecessary hostility. What does Orwell propose about sports between nations? He believes they should be avoided because sports provoke unnecessary aggression and conflicts between nations. So these are the important questions, 2 marks questions from the essay Sporting Spirit by George Orwell. For 5 marks and 10 marks questions, I will suggest you to watch my videos on the summary of this lesson. The links of all the summaries are available in the description box. Thank you so much for watching the video. Subscribe it. If you have not yet done it, do subscribe. Thank you once again.